Hey, Wembley World Entertainment, and we've just finished the second weekend for Captain America Brave New World. And my God, are the trades and the shills and everybody trying to really spin this box office and put out some amount of cope to try and say, oh no, it's not as bad as we were expecting and it's still doing great. While the actual box office just shows us the movie is dead in the water. It truly is. And one of the main reasons why it's dead in the water is the fact that this thing is now on its second weekend with zero competition. And yet it is failing, especially internationally, which that is not a good sign for this movie. Now, what is the numbers? What did it drop by? Well, it hit what they were predicting it would, which was overall a 68% drop. Now, that doesn't sound too bad, does it? Even though it is incredibly bad. Especially the Friday to Friday drop, because that was a staggering 82%. So this past weekend, on the Friday it brought in 7.2 million. On the Saturday it brought in 12.8 million. And then the Sunday it dropped again to 8.2 million. It's interesting. I always find it interesting with Marvel movies on the second weekends, like the Marvel movies that have been struggling and doing really piss poor box office. The numbers always seem to be a perfectly round number. Like, put it this way, here's the first weekend, right? The first Friday that it was out, it made $40.912 million, right? Then you go to the Saturday, 27.719. You see how there's still those added numbers. And yet, this weekend, they're perfectly round numbers. They're even numbers. 7.2. That's literally, it's 7.2. 12.8. 8.2. There's no 219 or anything like that. It's 200,000. It's weird. I always find that really weird. This is also coming from over 4,000 screens. They had 4,105 screens that this thing is on. But it's the international number. So overall, from week 1 to week 2, domestically, it now stands at a pathetic, basically, for a movie that they were expecting to do gangbusters, $141.2 million. However, it's the international numbers that should be very concerning for Marvel, because it's only slightly better than the domestic number by coming in at $148.2 million. This thing on its second weekend couldn't break $300 million. Even though a lot of the trades were saying had already made over $300 million. But then you were getting headlines like this saying, Captain America Brave New World holds up, and then puts in quotes, slightly better than expected with a minus 68% second weekend drop. They think this is holding up. Yeah. Let's have a look at a bit of this article, because this is just where you go like, well, they're really trying to push that this thing is a success. Because these are all the same morons who are running with the whole stories of, oh, the budget's only 180 million. It's not. But let's put it this way, before we jump into this article. Even, let's for argument's sake, say that the budget was that 180 million. Then you're adding on an extra 100 million, for argument's sake, to the marketing of the movie. So now we're at 280 million. Meaning the movie has to make in and around $470 million to break even. And on its second weekend, with no competition, it can't even hit 300 million. So what exactly are they trying to sing about here? Because in all likelihood, this thing mightn't even hit 400 million. And at worst, it mightn't even hit 450. So I don't quite understand why they think this is a big win. But let's have a look at a bit of this article that talks about this one that's kind of saying, oh, it's done better than expected. Where it says, Captain America Brave New World had the odds stacked against it this weekend. The movie's reviews have not been great, and a B- cinema score, the lowest for any MCU movie, suggested it wouldn't have positive word of mouth on its side. However, Deadline brings some good news today, as the Falcon and the Winter Soldier follow-up is now on course for a 28.1 million second weekend. That's a drop off minus 68% from its President's Day weekend debut, and a big improvement over Ant-Man and the Wasp's 70% and the Marvel's 78%. This is the other thing that I love that they keep bringing up. They keep trying to compare this to Ant-Man and the Wasp. They never include inflation and how much we actually found out the budgets were for those movies. So when they're trying to say it's done better than this and that, this thing cost more than Ant-Man and the Wasp. You remember what they said Ant-Man and the Wasp cost? They said it cost 200 million. That was the number they gave, until we found out it actually cost $365 million. So every time they're trying to compare the numbers, it's like, yeah, but this thing cost even more than that did. So why are you trying to sing about this thing? It's such a joke. And then it continues anyway, saying, while we're waiting on updated international numbers, Captain America Brave New World appears to be losing steam both overseas and domestically. As of now, it's sitting at around 218 million worldwide. That means it's already topped Marvel Studios' biggest flop. The Marvels cannot reach that 300 million, 400 million range over the coming weeks. It won't be easy, and whatever happens, Captain America Brave New World won't be remembered as a hit. You hear the type of cope in this. You're saying it's great news because it only dropped 68%, and then the very next lines you're saying, however, it's still a disaster. Make up your mind. You can't sit there and say, oh, it's doing better than the other disasters that cost less to make than this thing. So this is going to in fact lose more money than that did. And of course, we do have those international numbers now, and yeah, it's a disaster. Now, in the UK and Ireland, it did get beaten. Even in its first week, it did not open at number 1. It opened in second place behind Bridget Jones's Diary. And there's no way they can say that was real competition for the movie, because 1, Bridget Jones is an R-rated movie, so you're getting less asses in seats for it. And 2, I don't think they're the same audience. Do you? Do you think there's a lot of people going to watch superhero movies that are going to watch Bridget Jones's Diary? And then, of course, China, where they were expecting probably a big chunk of box office to come in. And that didn't happen there either, because it got destroyed by a homegrown movie over there. I have no idea what the hell the movie's called. It's a weird name. But that kicked its ass there as well. The fact that the entire international number is only $7 grand basically behind this thing is, yeah, it's dead. It's done. It's toast. They may as well just pull it right now, because this thing will be lucky if it can manage to hit 400. At best it'll do is probably in and around 450, maybe. It's probably not hitting 500 million. But remember, the Shields and the trades are going to try and spin this as a big win, because they are going to try and convince everyone, oh, but the budget was only 180 million. Not just was it not 180 million. Now that we said, like, for argument's sake, we'll do the whole thing off it was, let's look at it realistically, because it's up and in and around, if not over, 400 million, because they filmed it twice. The 180 was for the next round of reshoots, which even took place over there in December, which Giancarlo Esposito let slip that was happening. Then you have the marketing, and the marketing for this must be over 150. And the reason I say that is because, don't forget, they put out the McDonald's toys and Funko Pops a year ago, and they've had to change all of that stuff, including actual images that they put out of the leader, the version of the leader that had the big head and the beard. And that's not what you got in the movie. So they'd have had to pay double the price for marketing on this, because they'd have had to go back and change the marketing. So this thing is going to be a colossal failure. This thing basically needs to make, probably in the region, and this has been generous to it, probably about $1.2 billion to break even. and it sure as shit ain't doing that. So there's your box office numbers for this thing. 68% drop, massive failure. It's a box office disaster. It's another failure for Marvel. So with that, I shall leave it there for this one. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.